So this lesson is going to be on describing data, displaying and exploring data. More specifically, it's going to be on identifying and computing measures of position, and constructing and analyzing box plots. Okay, so when we are talking about measures of position, often we talk about percentiles, deciles, quartiles. We don't talk about deciles quite as much. But percentiles essentially divides a set of observations into 100 equal parts. It doesn't matter how many observations there are. If there's 40 observations, it's still going to divide it into 100 equal parts. If there's 5,000 observations, it's going to divide it into 100 even parts. Deciles, same thing, except it's 10 equal parts. And then quartiles, once again, same thing, but it's 4 equal parts. And so we've got a formula for to determine the location of percentiles, because we deal with percentiles quite often. So the formula is L sub P, in other words, location of percentile, P being the percentile that you want to locate, equals n plus 1. N is the total number of observations plus 1. And the reason why we do plus 1, I'll get into that in a little bit actually. And then the percentile that you want to locate divided by 100. Okay? So, and then we also have something called, okay, so that'll give you, for instance, the location of percentile. If you want to find the 25th percentile, in other words, the first quartile, what you need to do there is put 25, L sub 25 equals the number of observations plus 1 multiplied by 25 divided by 100. If you want to find if you want to find the median, it's 50 divided by 100, so on and so forth. Okay, and we're going to get into the interquartile range in just a minute. Okay, so the first step that you have to do is you have to sort your data. Okay, so we're going to sort our data. So right here, we're going to look at expected numerical grade in this course, and what I did is I actually applied a filter to my data. So I'm going to go right here and I'm going to say sort smallest to largest. Once again, sort smallest to largest. You can find the filter. If you maximize this, go home, sort filter, and then you just highlight all your data that you want filtered. Oops. Okay, highlight all your data that you want filtered, and then you go home, filter, and it applies a filter, and then we're going to sort from smallest to largest. Okay, after we sort from smallest to largest, what we're going to do is we are going to find the median, or let's find the minimum first and then we'll find the maximum. So in order to find the minimum, here's the formula right here, but you do equals min parentheses and then you highlight the data that you want to determine the minimum for. Okay, same thing with maximum, equals max, whoops, okay, equals max, and you highlight your data. Okay, and I did the same thing with count, equals count A, then I highlighted the data, and count A counts everything in that range that does not have a blank. So as long as it's not blank, it'll count it. Okay, so there's a total of 103 in my range. Okay, so now we're going to apply the formula that we have for determining the for determining the location of a particular percentile. So the first quartile is the 25th, is the same as the 25th percentile. So what we're going to do is we're going to do equals, and then we've got a count of 103 plus 1 in parentheses. You need those parentheses for order of operation, and then you want to multiply it by 25 divided by 100. Okay, you could also multiply it just by 0.25 if you wanted to. For instance, equals 103 plus 1 multiplied by 0.5. Okay, and it gives you the same thing. And then equals 103 plus 1 times or multiplied by 0.75. And that gives you 78. So what we're looking at here is we're looking at the position of where the quartile, of where the first quartile number is. So we've got to, or where the first quartile value is. We've got to find the 26th value, okay? And the way that we find the 26th value is we start at the top, okay? And you hold down and you drag down, and you'll see right there it says 26R. That means that you have selected the 26th row. So that right there is the first quartile, okay? So we go down here, okay? The first quartile is 90. The median, let's find the median. Let's go down to 52. 93 is the median, okay? 93 is the median, and now we need to find the 78th position. 78. Okay, 94. And then we've got a max, like I said, of 100, or let's put the 100 down here. And then we've got a minimum of 85. Okay. And we also have something called an interquartile range. And the interquartile range is the third quartile minus the first quartile. So let's do equals third quartile minus first quartile. And that gives us an interquartile range of 4. Okay, the interquartile range of 4, and then I also calculated the mean for you, which is you just have to do average, and once again you highlight the entire data set. Now, what happens if, for instance, you only have 102 observations? Okay, 102 observations, and let's do 102. And 102. Okay, so that gives you 25.75. Okay, so you find the 25th and the 26th, 26 observation, and you take the difference between that and you multiply it by 0.75. So if this was 91, then what you would have is you would have a 1 point difference. You would multiply that 1 point difference by 0.75, so the first quartile would be 90.75. And then it would be the same thing for the median. So if you wanted to find the median, let's see here, the median would be 51.5. Let's find 51.5. Okay, so you've got 50, 51, and 52, so they're both 93, so it doesn't make a difference. But if this was 94, then you take the difference, which is 1, you would multiply it by 0.5, so it would be 93.5. Okay, and then for the third quartile, you would multiply the 77th, the difference between the 77th and the 78th, you would multiply that by 0.25 and add it to the 77th. Okay, but we have 103, which makes our lives a lot easier in this situation, and I'm going to go back to 103. Okay, so this gives us the minimum, the maximum, the first quartile, the median, and the third quartile. Now let's make a box plot. I'm going to highlight the data that I want to make a box plot for. Then I'm going to hit Insert, Recommended Chart, and I'm going to go to Charts. I'm going to go to Box and Whisker, and I'm going to put in a box and whisker chart. Now you can see that this box and whisker chart is more or less useless because you can't tell really anything about it. So what we're going to do is we're going to fix that. We're going to make it so that you can really understand what this is saying. So what you need to do is double click on the numbers right there on the vertical axes. Click on the right here, it's the axis option, and then you want to do the minimum. Do about 5 points less than the minimum. So for our situation, let's do 75, and then do, 5 points greater than the max, so 105. And depending on your data, you might do 10 points, you might do, 2 points. It all depends on the type of data that you have. What you really are trying to do is just make a clean looking chart. So this chart looks a lot cleaner. You can really kind of understand what it says, and what we're going to do is we're going to move this chart down so you can see it next to everything else that we were working with. And then let's scoot back in here. Okay, so you can see right here that and I'm gonna do one more thing. I'm gonna go to quick layout, and I'm gonna modify the way that it looks, so that way you can just see a little bit more information about it. And then I'm also going to go, I double clicked on the box and whisker plot, and I'm going to request to see the inner points. Okay, you don't normally put the inner points, but I'm showing it to you guys just so you can kind of see the distribution a little bit. Okay, so you've got the maximum, which is 100. You've got the minimum, which is 80. And then you've got the first quartile, which is 90, which is right here. Then you've got the median, which is 93, and you've got the third quartile, which is 94. And then in here, it's difficult to see, but let's see if I can show you. Right here, I'll get rid of the inner points. You see this X? This X right here is the mean, which is 92.2038. And you'll see that the median is actually greater than the mean, and we're going to get into in a later lecture why that's important. Okay, so you may be wondering, why is this 80 down here and it's not within the box and whisker? Okay, the reason why the 80 is down there and not within the box and whisker is because it's what we refer to as an outlier. Okay, an outlier is anything that is greater than 150% of the interquartile range from the third or from the first quartile. Okay, and I know that that was a mouthful right there, but 150% of the interquartile range is 4 times 150%, which is 6. Okay, so you've got an interquartile range. The first quartile is at 90, so 90 minus 6 is 84. So anything less than 84 would be considered an outlier. Okay, 94 plus 6, or 94 plus 150% of the interquartile range is 100. So anything greater than 100 would be considered an outlier. Now the reason why it just says 85 right here is because 85 is the lowest value that is within 150% of the interquartile range. Okay, so if there's nobody that put that they expected to get an 84, and I'll show you that. Show inner points, you'll see nobody said that they expected to get an 84. There were some people that said 85, some people that said 87, and really actually nobody said anything, 81, 82, 83, 84 at all. They either said 80 or they said 85. Okay, and there were several people that said 80. That is the outlier. This is the maximum. This right here is the lowest value that is within 150% of the interquartile range. And then this right here, 90, is the first quartile. 93 is the median. 94 is the third quartile. 93, the median, is also considered the second quartile, and then 92.20 is the mean. Okay, now another way that you might often see this is you might see this horizontally. Okay, and you'll see right here you've got the first quartile, you've got the median. On this graph you don't see the mean, and then you've got quartile 3, and then you've got the max value right here and the minimum value right here. And you don't have any outliers on this graph. So that's a box plot. I know that's a lot to take in, especially with the outliers. But all the formulas are right there, so you're going to need to be doing some box plots with the quantitative data from your project. So if you have any questions about that, feel free to watch this as many times as you want, or you can post a question to the discussion board, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can, or if you know the answer, you can feel free to answer your classmates as well. Thanks so much.